Namaste. And welcome everyone to Satsang tonight. So before I get started with what I want to say tonight, just a few notices to read out before I forget. So there's less than 2 weeks now to the start of the Dissolving the Ego course. So and this course runs in April every Tuesday. And if you want to get on the course, now is the time to take action, because it won't run again, this course, till September. So the Dissolving the Ego course is for those that really want to just go beyond suffering completely, that want, if the course is designed by me, basically put everything in there that if I only had 4 sessions to tell you everything you needed to know to wake up, this would be the course. So everything that I wished I'd known when I was doing my own awakening, it is in the course. And for the rest of your life, you'll have the tools and the necessary information to tackle any spiritual problem that comes up. So if you want to find out more information, you can go to the website, which is helenhamilton.org, or email us at evolutionofspirit@gmail.com. So just to let you know as well, there'll be a special satsang here on my channel Monday, 30th of March, coming 7 p.m. same time, basically. And this is really to address not so much the situation that's going on, well, in the UK, but everywhere. Not so much the coronavirus itself, but the effect that the measures that have been taken to combat it are having. There's a lot of people feeling uncertainty and feeling a lot of change going on in their lives, and there's sometimes some financial issues and situations that are leading to worry. So I wanted to do a special satsang really just to talk about change and uncertainty, embracing uncertainty, how the manifestation works, and really how to learn to go with what's happening, and not to be scared of change. We all might be feeling limited at the moment in some way, restricted physically at least, but we can use what's happening to our advantage spiritually, and that's what I want to do for Monday night. So if you have a question in that area, you can email it evolutionofspirit@gmail.com, and just mark your email question for Monday Satsang so that we know it's for that one. In general, any questions for Satsang, you can email to the same address as well, and I'll read them out and answer them anonymously as soon as I can. Okay. And just a last reminder, if you're tuning in Monday from somewhere else in the world, our clocks in the UK change this weekend, so the time difference will change as well. Okay. Tonight I wanted to do some guided self-inquiry again, just to go deeper into what we really are, and to hopefully show you just how easy it can be to come out of suffering, and how simple that realization can be. It doesn't have to take years. It doesn't have to be very, very difficult. It doesn't have to be something that only happens to a few people, because the essence of my own realization was really a simplification of my process, and everything gets so much more simple and clearer. So with that in mind, I'd like to take you through a guided inquiry session now, and you can follow along if you want to. You don't need to close your eyes. You don't need to keep them open. Whatever feels natural for you. For the beginning, I'd like you to try and keep your eyes open. And what may happen is that you may find when we start to do this, your mind will start to talk, or the phone will ring or something to try and distract you. So just to be aware of that before we start. Maybe turn your phones off, or just put them aside where you're not going to be distracted. Because there's a huge spiritual myth that everyone has. I know that it was inside me, and that is that it's really difficult and challenging to really come to the ultimate state of freedom, and that it really takes a long time to do that. So I really would just like to dispel that myth tonight. So right as you're sitting there, just follow along with what I'm saying, and if you find that you get stuck at any point, you can just listen to this again and just ask for clarification to come, and it will. Why? Because you're already so much more than you perhaps you've taken yourself to be. So right as you're sitting now, you can use your human senses, your eyes, to look at objects in the room that you're in, and you can feel the chair or whatever you're sat on. You might be able to smell a fragrance in the room. You can hear these words coming through vibration in your ears. So that part of our experience we're well acquainted with, that you have a human body and that you're looking through it. And then there may be thoughts about what you're seeing. You may be, lots of mind may talk about what objects you're seeing. So it's natural and effortless for you to perceive objects through your senses. And I want you just to shift now, as we did once before, and just come to notice the empty space in the room that you're in. So just to notice that there is empty space. There's objects in the room, and there's also empty space around you. And so noticing as you do this, that you already have a faculty that perhaps you hadn't been all that aware of inside you. So you can use your senses and your mind to perceive objects. And then you can perceive the empty space in the room. Just with a flick, a shift of attention, you're noticing that which has no form. The space, you can't grasp it. You can't see it. Even if I look at the empty space, it's invisible. It doesn't smell like anything. It doesn't have any tangible quality. It's not making any sound at all. And yet effortlessly, you're able to perceive the space in the room. So there is this aspect to you that is able to easily perceive forms and shapes and objects with your physical senses, and to think about them then with your mind if you want to. And then you also have this faculty which can just perceive formlessness, that which has no shape, that which has no form. It's invisible. Objects are visible. Empty space is invisible. Objects are tangible. We can pick them up. Empty space is intangible. So let's just stop for a moment and just really look at what we're noticing. How are you perceiving the empty space? How are you noticing it? And perhaps we've never really looked at this before. Perhaps we've never really noticed even the empty space. It may just be attention is drawn to objects. Because this is happening inside ourselves. It's a metaphor. Our attention goes to the thoughts that come continuously. And when does our attention ever go to the space in which those thoughts are appearing? Did you even know you can do that? So how are you seeing empty space? How are you perceiving it? Isn't there something else inside you that just knows it's there, directly perceiving it. You're not using your senses. You're not using your mind to see this empty space. Afterwards, you can think about the space, just like you can think about the objects that you're seeing. But already you have the capacity to easily shift. So the more you put your attention on the empty space in the room, you'll notice that your body begins to relax. You may even notice that it actually costs you a little bit of energy to focus on objects. That perceiving the sort of emptiness, it is much more effortless and feels much more natural. So this faculty, this knowingness that can perceive a form or a formlessness, it isn't limited to either. Now, what most of us do now on our spiritual pathway is we started off thinking we were this form and that we were perceiving objects, that my mind and my body, my personality is all that I am. And then we notice that there's this formless space of our being, which is just here, that isn't doing anything, that isn't changing, isn't striving to get anywhere. And we immediately try to get rid of the old way. We think that way of perceiving should go, the way of thinking about myself, using my mind should disappear. But if you notice the empty space in the room now, you can just come to see that when you're focusing on the formless space of your being, that your body is just naturally functioning inside that. That you don't even need to have this sense of two. There is nothing to get rid of when you just focus on the formless aspect of your being. Naturally, inside the space, your body is functioning with your attention on that empty space. Your senses are still working. You can still hear. You can still look at the screen. You can still move around if you need to. If mind starts thinking while your attention is on the space, it will just be thinking. Thoughts will just come and go. So the cheat, if you will, to our awakening is the shortcut is not to try and get rid of anything, but just to relax your focus into the open space of your being, in which all these objects in that space, including your own body, including your own mind, are really just going to be allowed to be completely as they are in this moment. Just take a moment to notice the vastness in which all of these objects are appearing. Shifting our focus from what's appearing inside your being, your body, your mind, your emotions, your experiences, and just allowing them to be inside this space of your being, this quietness. Because the space of your being isn't in resistance at all to anything. It's not really able to push against things or to grab. So just noticing that it's effortless for you to perceive form or formless, shape or shapeless, tangible or intangible. Naturally, your awareness is capable of knowing itself, the formlessness, or knowing the objects appearing in it. And as we just said, recognizing also that your awareness can just allow everything that's happening inside. It doesn't go into relationship with anything that appears inside it. So if a thought appears inside the awareness in your brain, Nothing is needed to be done about it. And there's nothing that needs to be gotten rid of. We're not able, when we're perceiving the empty space of our being, to fight against anything. So emotion arises in the body, it's allowed to arise. And then thoughts may come, they're allowed to just come and go. So anything at all that happens inside this formless space of your being is just allowed to come and go. Even a sense of a someone that I am is just appearing inside, my life, me, my goal, my dreams, my awakening, my resistance, my passion, whatever it is that's coming up, is just allowed completely by this empty space of your being. If we focus on that sense of someone, there will seem to be a journey to get back to the empty space of being, and we'll never seem to arrive. If instead we just focus on the emptiness, which just isn't in resistance or relationship with anything, it's not disturbed by anything, then there's no need, the journey comes to an end instantaneously. There's no need to get rid of anything at all. So who are you here? What are you here? Even here, you can perceive form and formless effortlessly. We didn't do any warm-up exercises to achieve this. I just asked you to switch your focus, and it didn't take you, you didn't have to transcend anything to do it. You didn't need any extra skills than you already had and been born with. Who are you then that can perceive form and formless? Are you limited by either of those definitions here? What can you say about yourself here? You that can effortlessly perceive all of these forms arising inside your being, which is shapeless and formless. This may be the you that you've never really been introduced to, because perhaps nobody said before, hey, did you know that you can perceive formlessness just as easy as you can perceive forms? Do you have any definition here? Do you have any capacity here to resist anything? Noticing again that while we're just putting our attention on the formlessness, that right now my body's just talking, it hasn't stopped breathing, its senses are still working. If I need to think about something, I can. Same for you. There's nothing wrong here. There's nothing excluded here. Except the difference is that there isn't a sense of me having to do here. There's just a body and things are getting done. Words are getting spoken. And that the manifestation, the tangible aspect of me, the visible aspect, is just going about its daily life. So it's a choice whether to focus on the form only, and then time comes into being, and journey and becomingness and trying to get there. Or to focus on the formlessness, in which the form is just appearing and functioning spontaneously. When you shifted your attention to formlessness, your ears didn't stop hearing. Your eyes are still working fine. There's nothing at all wrong here. This is the simplest version of you, where you don't even have to pick form or formless. If you pick one of those, then you'll be instantaneously pushing against the other without realizing energetically. And this is why we suffer. This is why we feel divided inside ourselves. How can we only focus on form when it's appearing inside the formlessness of our real being? And how can we only focus on formlessness when we need to form the body to discern the difference between the two? And there's no argument between these two if you watch from your real being. There's nothing you need to get rid of here. No thoughts or resistance is going to have to disappear. Just resting in that formless space of our being. If you need a step back into it, if you've slipped out of it, just recognize the empty space around you. Again, my eyes are moving to look at it, but I can't see it. I'm seeing it from a place that's already before my mind and my physical eyes. The same seeing that sees the empty space in this room is also going to see the forms through these eyes. It's seeing my seeing. So I'd really like to invite you to this simple thing, just noticing you can perceive form and formless, and then just not choosing, allowing attention. Naturally, it will wander around your attention, form, formless, but it will come back to rest all by itself in the formlessness. Both of those are kind of categories that you're seeing. Anything that you're seeing cannot be ultimately what you are. You are already before any category here. There is nothing that you need to do here. Just for a moment, if we let go of all things that we think we know about ourselves, I know that I'm the formless one, or I know that I am this form. Just forget those ideas for the moment and see what remains. You are very definitely here and aware. You can perceive form and formlessness, all of this. What do you know about yourself here? We could use words like absolute or parabrahman or reality or awareness. Here, there is no self-definition at all for you, nothing to stand on as a definition. And do you want it here? Do you need it here? Are you absolutely already complete here? From time to time, we may begin to notice thoughts in the mind again, and we may slip back into focusing only on the form, our body and our mind. We may notice that a sense of becoming and time and trying to get somewhere has crept back in. Maybe trying to get back to this indefinable place that you are. If that happens, you can just refocus on the empty space effortlessly. Noticing that as you look at the empty space in the room that you're in, the space cannot be in conflict with anything that's inside it at all. And that what you are is much more like that space. One of these viewpoints is going to go, form and formless. One of them is temporary. Your body, your mind, your senses, they are going to leave. And they are discarded temporarily even during sleep at nighttime. Doesn't mean they're wrong or bad. It's just good to know which part of you remains when the body's gone. So when the body's not there, before the body arrived, and even right now, there is this deeper aspect to you that knows both of these categories, form and formless. When the forms disappear, what remains is the formless self, the space in which all of this is appearing, which is what you actually are. As if the space itself is sentient and aware, and looking through a human body, using our senses, that what our real being is always here. Sometimes it's looking through a human form, sometimes it's looking through other forms. In this human form, you have the capacity to discern form and formless. No other species has the ability to do that. And ultimately to come to see that neither of those categories limit me, where I really am. What can you say about yourself now? Not so much. What needs do you have here? What desires do you have here? Do you even need to find peace here or to understand what you are? This natural, effortless space of your being, expanse of your being, which goes on forever, in which all of this manifestation is just unfolding, that is awake and aware and just watching. What can it lack? What can it suffer from? Can it be limited in any way at all? These are questions to check out right now. Can I be limited as this? Does it matter to this if my body eventually grows old and disappears? The same empty space that perceives the form right now will perceive the absence of the form. You're still here. So I'd highly recommend just doing this over and over again and busting through this myth in our mind that it's difficult to see the ultimate reality of your being because you just did it. You just did it easily. Like less than 2 minutes when we first did it. This is a place where you don't need to know anything at all about yourself, about the world, about your awakening especially. It's a place where all journeys cease to be. And yet your mind will still function if you need it to. Your body will still move around wherever it needs to be, whatever time it needs to be. All of that will just go on spontaneously by itself. Naturally, while you're resting in your formlessness, there is the capacity to just listen, to just absorb what's being said without needing to do anything with that information at all. This isn't information for mental knowledge. This is information for your being to say, hey, did you know that you can look this way too? This is something else you can do. And then something else you can be, something you already are. Perhaps you're realizing that you're looking from a place that is different to what you expected. Perhaps you're realizing that you're looking from somewhere that is removed from the duality of form and formless. It's in front of, it's prior to this shifting attention of form and formlessness. There's nothing wrong with duality at all. And it will still seem to be there even after you've realized that, wait, I'm looking from somewhere that's not limited by any dualistic set of categories. The sense of your human form will just continue in front of your formlessness. The time-bound body will continue appearing inside the timeless self. The locatable sense of me as a person will just continue to appear inside that which has no location at all. And they're not in any conflict here, if you notice. It's only up here that there's any conflict between what you thought yourself to be and what you're seeing that you actually are. So right now, I'm inviting you to this conflict-free place, which is your home, your natural self. To recognize how powerful you are, not as an egoic self, but the natural power that is residing inside you as you, that creates all of this and sustains it. Can it be that easy? Can it be that simple? Can it be that it's always been that simple? We just listen to the ideas in our mind about a journey to get back to somewhere. Maybe to move forward to somewhere as well. Never once contemplating that we might already be that perhaps this sense of self that we were working from, where that journey seemed relevant, was not the fullness, not the totality of what we are, that there is another greater self in which my egoic sense of self appears, that I can just notice and reside as immediately. What difference does it make to the formless space of your being if your attention goes back to the mind? Is the space gone? If attention wanders back to thoughts? If mind says it can't be that easy, I'm fairly certain that it's not that easy because I've been trying for so long. Does that apply here to what you actually are? Or does that apply to the form and its journey? Because it cannot be difficult to recognize what you already are. It cannot take a long time to see what you've always been. Yet if we believe those thoughts, we'll begin to experience that if we believe that only a few people can do this with the right karma, or had the right teacher, or were just born lucky, had some spontaneous awakening. If we believe that deeply, then we'll have to keep experiencing that. What if the truth is something so much more profound and simple? That I just needed to be shown how to look, and now I've been shown, and there's no difference now between myself and the formless reality. There's no difference now between myself and the great sages that have declared, I am that. What that is, nobody can say. It's beyond all categories and definition. But it doesn't need defining, doesn't need any labels at all. Okay. Have some questions that were emailed in. First question says, Namaste, Helen. After hearing your response to my question in Satsang, immediately I sat and asked the question, what is behind presence? What is prior to presence? I don't know how long I was sitting for, though there was a sudden drop in stillness. There was no presence, no bliss, no above or below, no inside or outside, no body, or even thought, so pristine, clear, and spacious. I couldn't locate the seeing, yet it was ever present. Since then, I've been turning the attention back onto itself and watching from that place in silence. And when I'm moving around in my life, is this the right place I'm looking from? I don't want to be stuck for another 10 years as I was sitting in presence, waiting to go home. Can the mind fabricate and make it an experience? Beyond all of that, what doesn't change each time is the awareness. It is still and it never changes, but obviously there is still doubt. This must be grasped and recognized fully, Helen. No more delay. Much love and blessings. So the question originally from last week was, this questioner was having this swing from noticing this beautiful formless presence, and then attention was being dragged back to mind over and over again. And I think many people can say that they have had that experience where they just get to the end of their tether with that. So it's directing attention to notice what is looking, what is watching that swinging, going presence to mind, back to presence. Something here is watching both of those. And so they've noticed it's the awareness. It says it doesn't change, but there's just a little doubt in that awareness, the place we've just been residing, that was watching formlessness, presence, and watching form of the mind. Thoughts are a subtle form, aren't they? I couldn't locate the seeing. It has no location, the awareness. And there's no body or even thought. It was just pristine and spacious. Couldn't locate it, yet it was ever present. And since then, I've been turning the attention back onto itself and watching that place in silence when I'm moving around in my life. So this is really, really good. Is this the right place I'm looking from? Well, you can check that out right now. Is there anything watching that? Can you step back? You step back from watching the presence and notice that there's an awareness even of presence or mind, form or formless, just like we've done tonight. Is there anything behind that? awareness. Is there anything prior to that awareness? How are you noticing that awareness? Because if you're looking at awareness from somewhere else, then there's more to see, there's further back to go. When you notice that place, as you said, it's pristine, no above or below, no inside or outside, no body or thought, just clear and spacious. When you notice that, how are you seeing it? Are you seeing it with your mind? Are you using thought to recognize it? Are you using your physical eyes to see it? You say, I saw, I recognized. What faculty inside you is recognizing awareness? And if you really imbibe this question, how am I noticing awareness? You'll come to the ultimate recognition from inside that it's recognizing itself. The same awareness that's aware of presence, or aware of mind, or aware of emotions, is becoming aware of itself. Can an object such as our mind that's being perceived in the awareness recognize it? Can we make this up, awareness? Is it a trick? Or, as you rightly said, is it an experience? Well, what would be an experience? It'd have to be an I and an experience of awareness. There'd have to be an I that's aware. For it to be an experience also, it'd have to be coming and going. So you can check this out and look at this again and again. It's natural that there's some doubt still, and there was for myself. So I had to really look at this doubt. This doubt is mind asking you now for help. Okay, we've recognized the awareness, but I just need a little clarification here. Can you help me? Mind can't resolve this. It's asking, is this an experience? But the awareness yourself, you can answer this. Is it something that's coming and going? This place before form and formless. Hasn't there always just been something that knows? Knows whether thoughts are there or absent. It knows where attention is. Is it coming and going? So I can tell you the answer now, but really needs to be asked within yourself. Is it coming and going? Is it an experience? Am I separate from it? Is there a me experiencing it? Because then there'd be two things. In all these ways, you can really nail it down. Is this an experience I'm kind of making up? Or is this the ultimate place? And this is a really intelligent question. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing, that I've recognized it, and that there's nothing behind it in which I'm going to have to step back again. So, is there anything outside of this awareness? How big is this awareness? Where does it end? This pristine, beautiful state. There isn't really a state. So just to ask these questions, take them deeply inside yourself, you'll begin to eradicate this doubt. The doubt is a good thing. It's asking you to look again, to confirm. Naturally, we all say, wow, I am this place before anything. I am this seeing with no seer. But we need these doubts then to help us see it's not an experience. It's not coming and going. It's not something that I'm imagining here. It is that formless reality in which this body is appearing. So don't push these doubts away, use them. I always say that a doubt is simply a question that needs to be contemplated, to be asked and understood, and then that doubt has done its job and it will leave. There is no more delay, which I love. Check out if there's anything before this awareness, and ask the question, how am I recognizing awareness? And you'll come to see it cannot be an experience. It cannot be something that I am experiencing other than me. You come to see that the awareness is recognizing itself. It's really, really good. Second question says, for a long while I've recognized that there is a peaceful presence and that a life seems to be playing out in order for self with a capital S to see its true nature. While really the life isn't real at all, the peace is all. Lately there's been a sense of something happening within the peace, a change that I can't go where I want to, and something is happening in the world. So I know the peace is unchanged, and yet the seemingness seems more real, as though there's more to the life. Within this, there is an awareness watching all of it. Is this just to enable a deepening recognition of the peace that is all? And I'm asking, where am I, and can this affect me? There is a knowing that this is not real. Sorry, in asking, where am I, and can this affect me? There is a knowing that it's not real. So, watching from the formless reality, watching the body move around, doing its daily, whatever it needs to do, whatever life happens through the body. As questioners come to a recognition that that's where they're watching from, and everything is happening in front. The manifestation is just happening, unfolding spontaneously. And then, as of late, with a lot of us, there's been this sense of limitation upon the body, that there's, we've been told, that we can't do this, we can't do that this week. And so there's just this sense of something happening again in the manifestation. A sense of a happening. So it's probably just, as you said, to allow this deepening of a recognition that what you are is effortlessly watching, and that the manifestation, your body, the self is playing as your life, and it's playing as all the things you have to do. And there is just a small amount of limitation still being perceived in the manifestation itself, and that has become noticeable as there are restrictions upon where your body can go, and it's showing up as just a slight desire. So any limitation, any lack, any want or need is just there might be just the tiniest sliver of a someone, a sense of an egoic sense of self, just a faint shadow there that wasn't recognized until the situation changed. Of course, you can probably see that you're watching that it's not troubling you, but again, you can just, and probably just this faint whisper of a someone, you can just ask the question once, is that really true, or where am I actually? Is this affecting me, as you said? And it's a very common thing that wherever we have still just a small tendency to identify with the body, or where there hasn't been completely severed our ability to imagine limitation, that life will move somehow to show us where that's still playing inside of ourselves, so we can allow that to go, because your body can be extremely limited. It can be restricted in all kinds of ways. It's finite, it's temporary, and it can be limited, but you can still notice that happening from a sense of being unlimited, from a sense of spontaneity and freedom. The nature of the body is limitation, and you're unlimited, and just effortlessly watching. And basically nothing that happens in the manifestation can affect you. That's just probably what's arising now, just this sense of just a little more confirmation needed. Okay, so last question. Hello, Helen. A question which haunts me for a long time, but without a headache. Those are the good questions. Without a headache, with a smile. Can we be awake for a very long time and not know it, since there is no one left to realize it? When I asked this question of my master, Wayne, he laughed and raised his eyebrows. It helped me a lot, haha, with love. So can we be awake for a very long time and not know it, since there is no one left to realize it? So what that means is there's no idea believed in of a separate self that is recognizing. So there never is a someone that reaches enlightenment. There never is a mind would never say, well, of course mind says several times, but there's never a finish line that your personal self will cross and go, yay, now I'm enlightened. You know, and it's not, that's not the way it happens. And for myself, to answer this question, there was at some point resting as that formless, indefinable self, not holding on to any definition at all of myself, the place that we've that you're hopefully still watching this from. There was this falling away of an ability to believe and to react to something as a personal self. And as you said here, there's no one left to realize at that point that the ego has gone, that has dissolved. And the awareness is just watching thoughts arise, emotions arise, but there was nothing left inside me that could push against or grasp a hold of anything. And I remember at some point something happened in my outside world, I can't even remember what it was, that would have triggered some very negative emotions and real pushing against that, wanting the situation out there to change, wanting these emotions to go. And I just couldn't push against anything. It had gone. And I could not tell you when it left, because I was just busy being myself, my real self. So it's very possible that you've always been the awareness, which is the awakeness. Enlightenment recognizes itself, recognizes I never was a separate being. And as that gets clearer and clearer and clearer, then the ability to interact as a separate being is just melting away. What is it that a separate being does? It basically, ego has two mechanisms. It tries to grab what it wants. So we get some peace or bliss and we go, I want more of that. We have some fear or guilt or something, anger, and we want, I don't want that. That mechanism that's trying to grab and pushing has dissolved. It's dissolving away in your real self, recognizing what you actually are. And there's no one left to realize it. There's no separate being left to realize it, but the awareness may say something like, I was only ever that, or I imagined this separate being with all of its history and all of its drama and all of its goals and all of its desires and all of its resistance and all of its awakening story. You know, the awareness can say, the real self, there never was anything other than me. I've always been this. So there's no person left to recognize because it's melted away. What is the person? Really, it's just a pushing against and a grabbing. It either wants or doesn't want. What it doesn't want, it labels as bad and, you know, pushes. And what it does want, it labels as good and tries to grab. When that's gone, amazingly, that may go without you realizing. Why? Because your attention is firmly planted in what you really are. And less attention is going to this thing which is seen to be unreal and more irrelevant. Not bad or wrong, just unreal and irrelevant. My sense of who I thought I was is just somewhere in the background, and my foreground is what I really am. So yeah, it's entirely possible. He laughed and raised his eyebrows. And sometimes life will show us, something will happen and there's no inner response to it at all. And I remember that feeling the first time it happened. I thought, wow, something's different. And I didn't know that it was different until nothing happened inside, when there was this trigger moment. And for a long time afterwards, I sat there and I tried to think about all the things that had made me upset as a person. I tried to think about enlightenment and, when will I get there? And it was just, there was nothing inside me that could form a response or a relationship with these, or go into relationship with these triggers that were happening outside or even inside. When that happened, I can't tell you. It was some point after I really made a decision just to live as what I consciously have seen myself to be. And at what point that thought appeared after that, how long in clock time that took for the thought to appear, there's no personal self left to fight against this. I really don't know. And it's not how we imagine our enlightenment, is it? It's not what we imagine it to be. We imagine that we'll absolutely know when our ego has gone. But the one that is measuring and making a note of our progress and if we're there yet is the one that's disappearing. So would the ocean know when the waves have disappeared and it's flat and calm? From the depths of the ocean, does it really matter what's happening on the surface of your being? Not so much. So, very good. So before we finish tonight, let's just take a moment to just check in with what we really are. That which is noticing thoughts and time and space and distance, and that which is just watching, that which just knows. Recognizing the peace that comes upon the body, the relaxation, when we just allow ourselves to be as we already are. However your mind and body is right now is just allowed completely to be as they are in that space of your being. And just like to invite you to just spend some time resting in that place where you don't have any definition at all, where you don't know what you are and you don't know where you are. There's nothing at all that you need to achieve here. There's nothing to work towards. Recognizing that your mind and your body kind of consciously already know that this is a good space to be in, that nothing is fighting against them here. Just inviting you to rest in the place where you don't know anything at all. A place before any intention or desire, the place before any goals or even the greatest desire of all, which is to be this, that you really are. Just you, without any extras. You're already outside of the form. You're already beyond your body to be able to recognize the formlessness. Formlessness recognizing itself and then recognizing form. There's no work to do here. You don't even have to transcend the mind. Just all of that is just happening in ideas. You're just here and there's nothing at all that needs to get done. There's a great silence and a depth of emptiness that is your real nature. This is where I live, and I'd invite you to be here with me, where there is no distance between us, no limitation. Okay. Thank you very much. Namaste. Thank you.